up the dollars for scholars to item A. So that would be coming up next. Discuss authorizing funds for the Lake Worth Dollars for Scholars program. I know we talked about this at the last meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Did you want to say anything?
Well, sure. Thank you. Over the years, first of all, I want to thank you, Mayor, for your comments earlier about education in general and our attempt to build relationships and stronger networking opportunities with local schools. As a product of the Northeast, I'm not quite used to that type of a separation of the schools and the local government, but for whatever reason, that's the way it is here. But we really do need to have an opportunity to work with the schools. You know, over the years, on and off, I've been involved with helping raise money for Dollars for Scholars, not so much in recent years, but I know a lot of folks work very hard annually, you know, all the time trying to raise money to get some desperately needed funds for some of our bright students to move on to college. And, you know, we've spent several years now working together as a commission to try to create an environment to encourage investment into the community and to bring our city back in many respects. And we're starting to see some results of that. We're starting to see new investment. We're starting to see a new level of enthusiasm. And you know, I think that's going to continue. But that investment and that regrowth and rebuilding of our city is going to be largely dependent on our own residents, those that are here now, and how they prosper and grow with us into the future. And those their children, our high school students, are going to be a big part of that. So I think it's wise that we really consider investing in those children, as we're asking others to invest in our community, that we turn around and invest as we can in their futures as well. So hopefully they can, you know, get the educations they deserve, and then they can come back and serve the community and help us, you know, carry on the work into the future. So I'm proposing that we budget $25,000 annually of Dollars for Scholars program, and I'm happy to make that motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and a second. I couldn't agree with you more. I guess just one bookkeeping measure, and I don't know, Glenn, maybe you can help me with this. If we have this allowance, I mean, do we need to have anything on what stops that from different organizations, you know, or us doing this, which I think is the right idea, and I would vote for. I'm just, do we need to protect ourselves in any way from?
Well, it's always your discretion as to what efforts in the community you believe serve a public purpose. So if you believe this serves a public purpose and you vote in support of this, then you can allocate those funds. And you'll have to consider, you are correct, you're in a way opening the door, other organizations can ask, but you have to decide which are the ones that benefit this community, and you just have to make those decisions. Every community is different as to what's important to them and where they allocate.
I just didn't know if we had anything on the books that we had to be concerned with. As I said before too, when I was talking about the Mayor's Education Council, not having it, and I'm very much like the Vice Mayor when it comes to growing up where I grew up. The city worked directly with the schools. It wasn't a third party, a county person that came into the city actually interacts with it. So, with that said, to add to what the Vice Mayor says, well, you know, when we're creating legislation and laws and rules and things like that, we're trying to remove the disincentives from this community to allow investment. We need organizations like this that are building, and we need, who's going to be the future leaders and Dollars for Scholars for the next generations and the next generations and the next generations. You know, we've got to keep and retain these kids in our community because we need the leaders of this community to be from this community. You know, in these days and age, you know, we're such a global world that, you know, what's to stop people from moving here or moving there or moving across the country after they get out of high school or college or whatever. But how do we build our community without looking at our schools? You know, we need to keep and retain and employ and sell houses to and rent apartments to the future families and the future participants of this and the future members of your organizations, and that, so that we have something to hold on to. And we're seeing that. I mean, in talking with our leisure services, we talked about our programs, our soccer program having 38 kids and then had 198 kids this last year. You know, we're seeing families move back, we're seeing that group and those families and those kids and all different types of families moving into our community and investing in our community. So that's our next generation here. And that's what I think we should focus on, you know, putting the time, the energy, the money, the help with one of our biggest investments, which is our kids. Commissioner Emerson.
I just, my question was the process. Because here we're going to do $25,000 annually, and you had talked about schools. This is a school. What about the other schools in the city? What about our summer program? Are they all, I mean, they all can come forward and, you know, have also?
I would suggest that when you say annually, obviously every year is going to be subject to the budgeting and appropriation process.
And the commission that sits here.
And the commission that sits here will decide whether they want to do that. On a different level, the county, for example, has a program called financially assisted agencies, where today actually they were meeting to decide how much money they allocate to various charitable organizations. I don't know whether you want to get that formal. I mean, I think this is the first time we've really done this. How wide you want to open the doors, you're saying, I mean, there are other schools, there's other charities, there's more good causes than any of us have enough money to take care of. So I'm taking this as a one time, at least for now, organization. But if the commission wants to develop some kind of protocol on how this would work in the future, if you're thinking of doing it for other groups, then direct staff to develop a protocol and maybe a process where you actually have a deadline where people submit requests and it's evaluated and then it gets submitted to the commission for the budget. I say all that recognizing that our budget has been tight for many years, so I'm well aware of that.
Well, and that's why I'm asking more about the process, because after tonight, we will be inundated with other groups, other organizations, and for years prior to us, there were events, Street Painting Festival came every year looking for funds for that event. There were other nonprofits looking, you know, do we want to give $25,000 to one group or do we want to split it up? I think moving forward, we need to come up with some kind of a process.
Or allow for possibly up to X amount of dollars that those things can be submitted in, and so that we can give to other entities as well.
That's
So
what
that
we
we
need.
could
We need a
budget,
process.
with the budget allowing that to happen.
Thank you. I remember I did a charity raising money for Dollars for Scholars. The mayor was there too, as the hat contest. There was a dollar amount for these scholarships. Like, I know that during that event, enough money was raised for one scholarship. Is there anybody that can talk about how many scholarships $25,000 will buy?
Yes, we can talk about that.
Would you mind stepping up?
No.
You know what, they both work.
Okay.
There you go.
My name is Doris Welch. My address is 370 Southwest 11th Place in Boca Raton. And I am the co-chairman for the Scholarship Committee, Dollars for Scholars. This past year, we awarded 47 recipients, a total of $67,000. Our scholarships range from $1,000 to $3,000 at this point. So it's not all scholarships are the same amount. So to answer your question as to what $25,000 would buy, it could be 25 young people, it could be 25 scholarships for $1,000, or it could be dispersed in other amounts. We have 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, and 3,000 is our top at the time. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That information definitely gives me a better sense of that. So thank you very much.
We also have
I
live
would-
public comment too.
Yes, I would like to propose to my colleagues here that, and this is something that I could get behind too. I like the idea. I certainly think it's a worthy cause for the sake of the public and their awareness of what we're spending their money on. I would feel more comfortable if we were actually looking at a proposal here for what the Dollars for Scholars program is, what it provides. And I would mirror Commissioner Amoroso's comments that yes, this is going to open a door, and we need to, whether we make a one-time decision here or we decide to do something going forward, we need to have a process, an open process where people have the opportunity to weigh in, that they know what they're weighing in on, and we, other than this lovely brochure here, we don't have much information on what we're spending this money on. So I like the program, and I could definitely get behind it, but I would actually like to see some written information in front of me and also distribute that to the public.
Thank you. Again, I'd like the suggestion that if we want to go forward and put together a line item in the budget, then and create some sort of a process, we should do that. But be clear that this initiative, this agenda item was intended to be a one-time, one organization type of thing. It was not intended to open up, for everybody to come lining up, because they do that anyway. We get people coming to us on a daily basis looking for funding. Okay, so that's not going to be a new phenomenon for us. Your comments and my comments as far as investing in our children's future are very, very important aspects of what we're doing this money for. We're not talking about a street painting festival. We're not talking about, somebody setting up a pottery shop or something like that. This is going to make a real impact in people's lives, and it truly serves a public purpose. And this is intended to be a one-time, this organization that's who I'm speaking to. I'm not looking to, open up that box, but if we want to go down that road, then I'm willing to have that conversation and create a line item for other organizations to create a process.
Okay, well, we have a number of cards here, so I'd like to get right to it and see, let's hear from the community. Dennis Dorsey, followed by Dr. Lockhart.
I can scrub it up here. In 1998, Dave Canley, principal of Lakewood High School, asked me to come over if he wanted to talk to me. He had retired.
Talking to the microphone.
Oh, it's not on? Turn it off.
They're on, you just have to get a little closer to lift it up. If you want, you could pull that out.
He called me over and he said that he was concerned that all that idle time I might get in trouble or run for politics. So that's how we happened to get involved with the Dollars for Scholars and the Alumni Foundation. The school has produced 7 federal judges, numerous doctors. The astronauts up in Cape Canaveral, but we are right now are stuck with a lot of kids who come here from foreign countries. Parents don't speak English. They have and never considered the chance of going to college. So we started in 99, first giving scholarships, each year giving back more. Now, this investment will go into an endowment, which we have averaged since the time that we started, 8.5% a year. And I'll ask Gaiman to try to match that. And with that, after it gets $25,000, then we split it, and then we keep part of it in, half of it goes to the scholarship. The other half stays in to make the investment grow. So it wasn't everything that we have done has had an awful lot of thought. We put out 2 newspapers. We have 2 meetings a year, which have in between 90 and 120 people there. We have fundraisers, everything from wild pig roast, anything you can think of that you can make some money, we've done it. And we have a real hardship. I mean, when you have somebody come in and their parents don't speak English, and they're trying to survive and to live, and their boy is 14, he never attended
Excuse me.
school, you can't send him to
You
them.
might be holding off a minute. You all okay with extending
You
a
can't send
courtesy
him
to our former mayor?
Elementary school, because first off, he's 14, he's shaven, he's gotta learn to speak English. So we have these come in and we're graded with these students who are here, who haven't had the opportunity, and really have a lot of knocks against them. And they're the majority students now. we probably have more people on the subsidized program to feed than any school on the East Coast. Any school on the East Coast. Now, the only ones who might come up to us are South Bend, which is different entirely. So this isn't really a donation, this is an investment. And the investment's gonna be dividend. Our first, well, in fact, one of our first recipients is running for judge. And then one of the other candidates, the sheriff, he graduated from my school. His dad graduated from this school. We have a number of people who have been prominent people. Disney World, R.F. Radel, graduated class of 1934. He put that land together for Walt Disney. So we've really developed a lot, but right now, we've got problems and we need help. So if you can do this, it's not money that's gonna be put to waste. We don't waste money, and we do invest it well. So if you can do it, thank you.
Thank you. Principal Lockhart, followed by Dave Gardner. Carlo?
Good afternoon, Mayor. My name is Dr. George Lockhart. I'm principal of Lakeworth Community High School. This is my 6th year there. And I can tell you that since I've been there with Mr. Cantley, who's still the principal, by the way, Lakeworth High School.
It's Cantley, that's it, I'm trying to read your writing.
And what happens, since I've been there, he came to me and he asked about the funding. I think I start off with $20,000, then I give him $25,000 a year from the flea market that helps with it because education is priceless. You know, the new race is affluency. The average affluent home has 22 books inside that. The non-affluent home has 1 book, which is the Bible, which is the toughest read there is. When these students then struggle through it and fight through it, as Dorsey was saying, and didn't be able to qualify for college, it is not graduating from college is the issue. It's staying in college or the financial burden that they deal with. The one who's running for judge is a friend of mine, running for sheriff is a friend of mine. If my name sounds familiar, it's my uncle, the peer is named after him. With that, and he was a real stickler for education, was not educated himself, but all of his children graduated from Lakeworth High School. I was born in Lakeworth, and I would have gone to Lakeworth, but they should have been John L. Leonard. So with that said, that being the principal at Lakeworth High School, with this influx of funds, definitely, I can tell you, it makes a big difference because what's happening is my job as the sheriff over there, the academic liaison there at the Lakeworth High School. The discipline is down, the graduation rate has increased, that you all have seen over the last 5 years of being there. One key that we're missing now is what do we do after we graduate? I've done my part. At that juncture, what we need is a catapult or something of that nature financially to send them off to education. And all of us have been educated at some point, if not college, in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And again, education itself is priceless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Principal. Mr. Cantley? Doris Welsh is up after that.
Good evening. My name is Dave Cantley. I live at 564 South Country Club Drive in Atlanta. As Dr. Lockhart stated, I was principal at Lakeworth High from 1980 through 1999. During that time, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Torsivi a couple of times when he was with the school board, and he managed to keep me out of trouble.
That was a good job, too.
We threw some curveballs at the school board, that's for sure. As Dennis said, from 1980 and 1998, 99 was my last year, and I had been giving a lot of scholarships to needy students out of the flea market funds. And then one day, and close to my retirement, I decided we need to start a foundation here. The school has a lot of rich history. We're the oldest high school in the county. And Dennis mentioned just a few of the people, famous people really, that have graduated from the school. And so a guy from the class of 51, Al Elaman, went up to Richmond, Indiana, to a conference there on how to start a high school alumni foundation. And at that workshop, we had opportunity to run into some people who were from the National Office of Dollars for Scholars. So at that point, we saw the advantage of having both an alumni foundation and a scholarship foundation. And so we started Dollars for Scholars and the Alumni Foundation in 1999. And we awarded $10,000 that year. And as Doris said, we awarded $67,000 to the class of 2016. And our recipients are the neediest of the needy. We don't give scholarships to kids whose parents can afford to send them to college. Our scholarships goes to kids who, well, their parents probably never graduated high school, most of them. They are kids who are going to succeed, or going to do well, because we screen them. They have to demonstrate that they can do college work through their grades, test scores, and so forth. And through an application, financial disclosure application, they have to prove that they are financially needy. Another a branch of what we do is the Barry Grunow Scholarship. Most of you were around on the last day of school in 2000 when Barry was murdered in his classroom in Lakewood Middle. Jody Gleason was a school board member, chairman at that time, and she started a campaign to get funds for a scholarship in his name. And because the funds came from all over the county and the country, actually, that scholarship for aspiring teachers is available to any student graduating in a public, private, or parochial school, or a homeschool student in Palm Beach County. That account is separate from the regular Dollars for Scholars. And Commissioner, you mentioned about some more information about Dollars for Scholars. If you take this home tonight and peruse this thing, from start to finish, I think you'll have a good understanding of what we're about and what we're doing. So,
Thank you, sir.
again, I want to say on behalf of all of our students, the class of 2017 and future years, I want to say thank you for any decisions you make here tonight that might go to affect those students.
Thank you,
Does
sir.
anyone have any questions?
You know what, actually, we have to go through all the cards first, and then we can chat.
Okay?
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I'm gonna wanna let all of you talk past the buzzer, but we'll be here till 10 o'clock tonight, so.
My name again is Doris Walsh, from Boca Raton.
But you can't talk anymore.
No. I actually can make it short because he said more than half of what he asked me to talk about, so sorry. Dollars for Scholars awards two scholarships. One is the General Academic Scholarship, the other was new this past year, a Vocational Technical Scholarship for students who are planning to go into perhaps nursing or culinary or something that is not necessarily requiring a college degree. So those two scholarships are what he was referring to as our general scholarship. The Barry Grunow is a memorial scholarship, and I was assistant principal at Lake Worth Middle School the day that Barry was killed. So it's a very special scholarship to me, and just to have the privilege of presenting it to a student, deserving student, and someone going into a profession that both he and I loved, is something that is unique, and as I said, it's very special to me. We have students, the recipients are anonymously selected. They apply online, and they are anonymously selected based on academics, their test scores, their school activities, their work experience, community service, but the most important component is the financial need, as David said. The input as far as from them, I can tell you, having the unique privilege of reading every profile for every applicant, they have everything to succeed except that one component that's called the finances. And so I want to say thank you also for even considering doing this, because I can tell you right now, you will be making a wise investment in the future of some very deserving young ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Harold Gilmore, followed by Dr. Helen Gilmore.
Good evening. My name is Harold Gilmore. I am the president of the Lake Worth Alumni Foundation, and I reside at 7020 Half Moon Circle in Hypoluxo. Lake Worth is my hometown. I was born on Pine Street, South Pine Street, out by the cemetery, delivered by Dr. Grady Brantley, who became mayor of Lake Worth later on. I attended Westgrade Elementary School, which is no longer there. I grew up in that house on Pine Street, which is no longer there. I then went to Lake Worth High School, which is exponentially bigger than it was in 1947 when I graduated. And yet it still represents Lake Worth. Palm Beach High is gone, Riviera Beach High is gone, Delray Beach High is gone. Lake Worth still has their own community high school, in which we're very, very proud of. The money you give is not just a nice gesture to Mr. Cantney, who works really hard at this, or Principal Lockhart. It is an investment in your city. It assures you that you'll have educated, qualified people in the future to continue what we have built here for the last 104 years in Lake Worth. It assures us that qualified businessmen and women will be here to lead our city, our county, our state, and our country in the future. We know that because of education, we will be able to walk into any business and be able to deal with qualified people who can complete the transaction, make the change, and do everything else. Yet when we go to the scholarship for higher education, we're getting into the up-to-date, technical, and everything else, and becoming a higher qualified person. Many of these people that we send to college or on their way to college will return and become part of this community. They will become the business people, the police officers, the attorneys, the judges, the planners and the doers, the movers and shakers, as you would call them. Let me just quickly tell you about another beautiful
If you would mind just quickly, please, I'm sorry, the
Okay.
buzzers.
All right, well, I'll skip that
You
part
guys
up.
promised me.
No,